Hello, and welcome back to the Wild Violet Healing Podcast. I am Erin, and I am so happy you are back with me today as we try to dive deeper into the path of karma yoga. Reading the Bhagavad Gita during my yoga teacher training was my introduction to Hindu deities and Indian spirituality in general. The Bhagavad Gita is actually a small portion of a larger writing, the Mahabharata epic. This story is a conversation between Prince Arjuna and his charioteer Sri Krishna, who is an avatar of the god Vishnu. Vishnu is the god whose role is to protect and preserve. The other two gods in the Trinity are Brahma, the creator, and Shiva, the destroyer. The story takes place just before a battle between divided members of a large royal family. Prince Arjuna is in crisis, not wanting to fight his cousins, who are morally in the wrong and the side not supported by the gods. Krishna, the avatar of Vishnu, was born into this time to help restore balance, to tip the scales back to good. And here's the man he is destined to support, having a crisis of faith on the battlefield because he doesn't want to kill. He doesn't see how he can remain a good person and on the path to enlightenment by participating in this war. Krishna gives Prince Arjuna a long philosophy lecture, hitting on points such as dharma, karma, and selfless service. Arjuna is told that fighting in this battle, as the skilled warrior he has trained to be, is fulfilling his dharma, the divine purpose for his life. By fighting, he is balancing his karma, the sum of the actions of a person from past lives and the choices of the current one. This ties to the belief that each life is an opportunity to balance the scales, to atone for past negative actions, and to spiritually advance towards enlightenment. And Arjuna is told to offer his actions as a service to Krishna, to the god Vishnu, to remove himself from identifying with what he is about to do, and instead know that even by fighting, he is honoring and surrendering to the divine. And here we better understand karma yoga. Side note, Krishna also discusses bhakti and jnana yoga in this story. This means we, as modern readers, can look to this text to explain karma yoga. Karma yoga is to do work with no attachment to the results, to labor without expectation of receiving the fruits of the endeavors, taking action on behalf of others without thinking of yourself, and offering everything to the divine. One of the easiest things I can think of for this that can fit within a regular modern life would be growing a vegetable garden in order to give away all of the produce without keeping any for yourself. You do the work of feeding others on behalf of the divine. Or knitting or crocheting a blanket or scarves or hats and giving them all away. You have provided warmth for others on behalf of the divine. Another would be the work of activists. So many of those individuals are not actually experiencing what they are fighting against, but they see it and want to work to change it for those who struggle. It is unfortunate that there are a lot of struggles in our world, so much inequality, inequity, gatekeeping of opportunities. And because there are so many opportunities for change, no one person can care about them all. But they can find the one that calls on their heart the most, that aligns most deeply with their values, and they can focus there. That strong connection to a cause and the motivation to take action is likely aligning with that individual's dharma, their alignment for who they are supposed to be in this life. And then it is karma yoga by fighting injustices on behalf of the divine. I have a close friend who has dived into activist work in our community and state in the last year. In addition to the literal work, this person is making family and personal time choices that are in alignment with selfless action. And they are doing hard mental and emotional work within themselves as well. We just had a conversation recently about how to reconcile and accept the words and actions that other people choose that don't appear to reach the level of standard that one could interpret within their religious beliefs. This was causing a lot of turmoil for my friend. I'm grateful we could have an open conversation and look more deeply at others and ourselves to interpret what was going on under the surface to try to find some peace. From their viewpoint, they aren't doing this work to follow a karma yogic path. But if you imagine a similar situation of a person acting in conjunction with a church group, they would be serving on behalf of their god, the divine. In my previous episode, I mentioned that I fostered kittens for a couple summers, and that at the time considered this a karma yoga action. Now, I'm not saying that can't be true, but as I have grown in my understanding since then, I can now say that my actions then were not strictly karma yoga. I enjoyed playing with the kittens, and my family did as well, and I was having to sacrifice my time of doing other things in order to care for them and better prepare them for their future families. But when the novelty wore off and annoyances started creeping up and increasing, I wasn't doing the deeper work then. I wasn't examining my thoughts and feelings about those annoyances and inconveniences. I wasn't looking at where those are coming from, why I was experiencing them. I wasn't choosing to move past them from a place of selflessness. By the time the kittens left my care, they were an obligation, a commitment I had made and was seeing through, but not from a heart centered place. Yes, bhakti yoga is the heart centered one, and karma yoga is service based, but the service still needs to come from a deeper, inspired action, like the heart. So the two paths are often intertwined. And in all that time we cared for the kittens, I was never offering the actions to the divine. So that was another piece that was missing. The actions felt like they were more on a secular level, if that makes sense. My son wants to foster kittens again. We took a break for a couple years due to other family priorities. He is a natural caretaker and loves easily and very openly on all creatures. And since he is older now, he would better be able to do more of the work for caring of them. I could hand him the responsibility while retaining the oversight, of course, and he could do well. And for him, it would be closer to karma yoga. He would be taking selfless action because we would not be able to keep them in the end. He would be developing a hardworking character from managing the responsibilities and making the choice to care and play with them instead of a selfish choice for him like playing video games. But as a youth, he wouldn't necessarily be using it to alchemize his thoughts, nor would he necessarily be offering the work he's doing to the divine. He would instead be laying a foundation for higher character as he grows into an adult. One last thing I want to mention about incorporating karma yoga into our lives. It cannot be forced, and it cannot be forced upon someone. I'm thinking about the difference between requiring volunteer work and choosing to do it. At my local high school, students are required to complete a certain number of community service hours. What do you think the odds are that all of those students are happily doing that service work? How many of them are complying begrudgingly because it is a requirement to graduate? How many are seeking the easiest option where they don't have to feel anything? It's just a job and then they can be done. How many are doing something that they feel is worthwhile, where they can care a little more deeply and let it change them a little bit? Or I invite you to think about your own family. Maybe you do volunteer work as a family, that you all work in a soup kitchen once in a while or clean up a park. Are you dragging anyone to get them there? A spouse who has things they would rather be doing, or a kiddo who just doesn't understand why you're making them do this? Individuals who are brought to service work in this way are less likely to open their hearts to it, less likely to change their thoughts, perceptions, and feelings surrounding it and within themselves. So I ask that you refrain from putting pressure on someone else to do the work of karma yoga. That is not to say you can't still use service as a teaching tool for character within your family. Just don't expect it to be in alignment with this yoga. If you are inspired to follow the path of karma yoga, go for it. Do your own work and lead by example without the expectation that something specific will be the result. I'll be honest, this episode has gone through a few versions. My first draft was my interpretation of karma yoga and a couple references to the book, the Bhagavad Gita. Then I looked up a few webpage references to include below for you and realized I was missing a critical piece, so I did a quick edit. But my mind kept thinking about this, kept working on this puzzle. Maybe not puzzle, but this question: what is karma yoga? And I realized that I still really didn't know. And that part of that reason is my 200-hour yoga teacher training. Now, I cannot speak with any authority on other trainings, but I believe mine only mentioned that karma yoga was a path and likely left most of the learning about it to reading the Bhagavad Gita. There was a good section of lineage and history of yoga included in the training, but the overwhelming majority of the course was dedicated to preparing to teach Raja Yoga, to teach the asana classes, with a little bit of the other stuff thrown in. That isn't to say that the training wasn't useful. It did meet my expectations at the time and reflected that most teachers, at least that I know about in America, are intending to teach yoga asana. And it makes me wonder about the other paths of yoga. Are those really individual paths? Are they private study, not something that can be done in community? Where are the service yogis? And further, those practicing bhakti or jnana yoga? Bhakti, I can reason well enough. The path of prayer and devotion is a private act, but jnana yoga is a mental practice with reading and learning. Where can you find a book club for yoga philosophy? I will certainly be looking into this for future episodes. Before I end, I want to take a moment and reflect how researching and learning more about karma yoga has been changing my viewpoint on it. Many religions believe in at least one God, one divine being. Many, but not all, pagans believe that all of the natural world and beyond are connected, that there is a piece within every living and even non-living thing that shares a spark, a piece of the divine universe. So narrowing that focus a little, it would reason that every person holds the divine within them. In Christianity, this could be the Holy Spirit. In a pagan viewpoint, this could be the divine masculine or divine feminine or the higher self. Regardless of what it is called, it is there. So maybe service to another is enough, that it does still count, even when the person doesn't say or think, I offer this service to the divine. Because that service for someone else, well, that someone else is the divine in a human form. And still doing the work to improve character and the state of mind is the practice to reaching samadhi, enlightenment, to reach union with the divine. When the lead teacher at my training would end a practice, she would salute and recite, "The light in me recognizes, honors, sees the light in you." This is acknowledging that spark of the divine in each of us. Maybe for most people living within the modern world, karma yoga is only a part of their practice. When I think of an individual like Mother Teresa, they truly dedicated their entire life to service, which would be walking the path of karma yoga. But that was by forsaking everything else in life. So maybe that is why we don't see or hear about people in our community as karma yoga practitioners. Because to be truly devoted to service to that degree, as part of and living as part of a modern community isn't viable. Just some final thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Wild Violet Healing Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode and feel called to like, subscribe, comment, or share. The content of my episode is not meant to sound like I am an authority on this yogic path. I'm a person practicing, learning, exploring, and letting it change me. I invite you to do your own study to continue understanding this path. Thank you, and I hope to see you next episode.